Okay. All right. So we are starting. This is episode 3 of Anime Parley. Thank you for joining us. It is a little late, but better late than never. We are talking about One Piece, of course, chapter 1142. What's the name of this chapter again? I forget. It is The Things I Find Scary. Just to kind of summarize the chapter, before then, this is your boy Killer Cam, obviously. I'll let everybody else jump in. Go. Awkward silence.
Bash
Go.
Hey,
Yo, it's Mookie Water Mike.
who you are?
Peace and blessings, y'all. AKA, I said the real name. Peace and blessings, y'all.
I'll
It's
bleep
Sean.
it out.
Peace and blessings.
This guy just doxed himself in chat.
Twice.
Okay.
All right, peace and blessings, y'all. It's Mr. Wild and Free.
Okay, awesome. And we'll definitely work on the round robin, the round robin introduction. Anywho, yes, we're talking about One Piece, chapter 1142. Let's just do a quick summary, and then we can kind of get into. I don't know. Personally, I find the chapter, it's kind of whatever. It's kind of like a setup chapter. Obviously, we're left on a break. We'll talk about something else for next week, but. Okay, so we unfortunately get blue-balled, and I might have to bleep that out, but it is what happens, where Oda leaves us in like this just excited state where we're about to see Loki. He's standing up. We're like really interested to see what he's going to do. And we start the next chapter, and we immediately cut away from it. We jump to, for whatever reason, the school. So the thing that we care about least in this arc, we've pretty much forgot about everybody of importance after Saul gets reintroduced into the story, and Vegapunk is being revived somewhere. We haven't seen them in a little while, and Jewelry Bonnie is also gone, and so is Kuma. Like, just really kind of weird. We just kind of forgot about them for a second. But the kids, we are focusing on the kids and what they're doing and what they're learning, and it turns out that they are being led away, and there's a giant worm-like creature that sort of kind of looks like it could be a drawing from Kanjuro, but seems to be a little bit more, I guess, well realized, but has the same kind of weird coloring. I'm pretty interested in that. Maybe that's like an evolution of that fruit, but we'll get to that. And basically, Saul comes out of nowhere to save the day. He comes out with, we're introduced to a series of teachers. They're not important, but one of them is Mr. Walrus, the school principal.
We don't know if they're important yet.
Yeah, how you know they're not important, man?
We'll see. I don't know. I feel like Oda's being very liberal with these Oda boxes, but we'll see. So the principal, Mr. Walrus, comes, smacks the dragon with a hammer into the air, or at least knocks him, like basically uppercuts him. And then Saul comes down from a tree branch and then punches him with, assumedly, an armament hockey infused punch. We then get the kind of exposition that basically a monster attacked them. They don't know where it came from, and the kids are acting weird. And one of the teachers, the language teacher, I forget their name, recognizes that, the things that are attacking are from drawings and whatever that they produced in class when she prompted them, what are you most afraid of? We then cut back to basically the realm of the dead with the Atom Tree, the base of it, where Loki is now standing up, surprisingly with Kairoseki on, like the Sea Stone. So he's got enough strength to stand up, and he's got enough strength to, what we see him do is strike the tree with his, what seems like a devil fruit imbued hammer. And what happens is he hits the tree, and we'll get into what he says in a second, but he hits the tree, lightning strikes or is summoned down to the spot, and then it hits a branch within the realm of the sun and sparks a fire. And basically it's kind of like double trouble, where they're sounding the alarm because they recognize that there's even more monsters that are giant size, by the way. They're giant in comparison to the actual giants coming in the distance, assumedly for the school. And there's one more thing. Basically, it looks like Ginkgo has, I guess, used one of her arrow abilities and has sent it to the school to basically cause the children to sleepwalk and move towards them in, I assume, their ship. The kids pass out don't know why. We just don't know yet. And basically, they cannot be touched. They cannot be moved. They seem to be incapacitated right now. And we are left off with effectively the country of Elbaf beginning to fall into turmoil. So, what is interesting and of note within that summary is Loki stands up and says, if you want to save Elbaf, unlock me right now. And he then threatens them and says, if you don't unlock me, I'm going to show you what I can do. And then obviously he strikes the tree. So where do you guys want to start? I mean, personally, like what I summarize, I mean, it's a series of things that happen. I mean, obviously it's meant to kind of set us up for the next chapter that will presumably be a little bit more hype, maybe a little bit more exposition
Indeed.
or lore drops. But what were you guys' takeaway?
Well, to start, it was Miss Ange. That was the language arts teacher. And
I don't know if you looked that up. A good memory if you didn't.
Yeah. And then, what was it? So you were talking about the quote-unquote drawings or the nightmarish figures. I don't think that that's like an evolution of Kanjuro's fruit. I definitely think that that's something else entirely. And I do think that what we see happening with the kids is the combination of multiple devil fruits at play, right? And so I think one of them is likely the one that is causing the children to go to sleep. And it could be the case that a single devil fruit is simultaneously causing the children to sleep as well as conjure their nightmares into physical existence, because those two kind of things correlate. Or it could very much just be like a dynamic duo, right? Being Saint Summers and the Kieran-looking thing. I can't remember its name. Sounds like Quetzalcoatl. Killing him, right. And so I do think that killing him, their power is at play here, because I think it was kind of referenced like, oh, good work. And then it's Ginkgo's arrow leading the children away from the school into their ships, right? So I think it's like this combination tactic, and it makes a lot of sense based on what happened in the previous chapter with...
Mr. Wildfree, we know that. I mean, we've seen the demonstration of Ginkgo's powers. We can assume that the new powers.
I'm just clarifying it because a moment ago you had mentioned like, oh, like it was Ginkgo's power, like making them sleepwalk, and I'm like, no, I think it's a combination of things.
I mean, it could be that it is her abilities, and the reason I say that is because, I mean, her abilities seem to be pretty. We can assume it's a paramecia type. Her abilities seem to kind of influence people and things in weird and strange ways, right? Like she can more or less kind of dictate the future by where she points an arrow, right? So, I mean, I think it's reasonable to say that maybe another element of her power is to like effectively coerce or force like certain actions vis-a-vis.
Well, that part I agree with, the coercion of action or direction of actions, right?
Sure.
But as far as the sleep thing is concerned, the reason why I think it's killing him is because like at the end of the chapter, right, like he's kind of like, all right, that should do it. And he's kind of like, it kind of insinuates like a sleepy state, like he has like the little ZZZs next to him, and so like I find that to be an interesting parallel to see killing him as a character saying, all right, that should do it, in a panel where he's also kind of shown in a sleep state. And so I'm like, like that should be a direct correlation between the children's sleep state and what killing them is up to. And so that's why I was thinking maybe it is a combination of their powers at play here.
I mean, I think that's fair. I mean, I think when he wakes up, that's when the children collapse. So it's possible that like he can kind of astral project or something like that. And as he's creating these like conjurations or whatever from their nightmares, maybe he has to not physically, but like spiritually, astrally be with them or interact with them in some way. That makes sense. I mean, the only thing I would call out is like, okay, well, what makes the conjuration stay and go away? Yeah. It seems like it doesn't matter if he's awake or not. They'll just be around. Maybe it's something where like you can pull it out of them or something. I don't know. I mean, obviously we didn't see it. Yeah, I think that's an interesting point.
Mm-hmm.
What about the rest of you guys? What do you think?
I think the chapter was I agree with both of you guys, and the synopsis was on point as far as what happened in the chapter, but I think it was a good chapter as far as like a segue or like a transition into this big fight that they just insinuated with trying to kidnap the kids. Because when you try to kidnap the kids, now you know something is about to pop off, because none of them are just going to let them try to take those kids. So I'm excited to see the ensuing fight that happens after this, and obviously to see what happens with Loki as well. Is he good? Is he going to try to help the kids there, or is he going to try to fight the Straw Hats and be a bad guy? So we'll see. I'm interested.
Yeah, I'll say my hot take on that later.
Yeah, I mean, you guys.
I want to hear Cameron's hot take on that one, bro.
Well, I mean, you guys know the hot take. I mean, it's the title of this this recording, but we'll get into that. I want to get
bad boy.
I want to get Mugiwara's take on this.
I thought this was an interesting chapter. I think things are moving at an interesting rate. But what I thought was the coolest or the most interesting from all of these nightmare monsters was Black Nika, and seeing what he looks like, what he's gonna do. And
I'm sorry.
I don't know why y'all are laughing. Shut up. Mugiwara's talking. Finish your statement.
And what Gunko is afraid of in the end, she also mentions Nika. And I think it was we've talked about this on the off channel, but I think it's going to be really interesting to see what happens when Luffy and Loki clash right now. If he goes full Gear 5, is Loki going to notice him as the sun god? And yeah, it just I think these monsters in the end were pretty unique, and Nika came as a surprise.
I think we can all agree that Ginko's definitely afraid of Black Nika for sure. I mean, it's more threatening and more of a menace. But in all seriousness, yeah, I mean, obviously it's a transitional chapter. Oda was going strong, I think, for like 4 chapters in a row or something like that without a break. We're definitely overdue for this. Mm-hmm. With that being said, though, yeah, I mean, it's always kind of like, that a break is coming soon, but you hope that it is on like a crazy cliffhanger. So, for instance, if Oda had taken a break right when Loki had stood up, that would have been pretty sweet. But, we got an extra chapter, and the extra chapter took us to the cliffhanger, which was that there are more monsters on the way. I got to be honest, though, I'm not crazy about the monsters. I think the monsters are stupid, and I'm going to make a bigger point before we get to the main topic. I'm gonna make a bigger point before we get to the main topic. I think they're stupid. I think they're very dumb. Because they just look stupid. Obviously, they're not going to be a serious threat. If I see one of them use hockey, I'm going to be very upset because they shouldn't know hockey because they're devil fruit constructs, which wouldn't make any sense. And because they can't use hockey.
It could very well make sense. Don't refute that, because we have seen Big Mom and her homies utilizing hockey.
We have not seen any of our homies using hockey.
Yeah,
Which
have.
one?
Zeus technically used hockey. I'm just
Zeus
saying.
did not use hockey. He just turned black because he's a storm cloud.
I beg to differ.
Okay, look it up.
I beg to differ.
Look it
there
up.
Were he does not. When he was in Nami's rod.
He does not use hockey
in the rod.
No, he doesn't use hockey in the rod.
Thank you, Bash.
When he uses
hockey.
In the
you guys
rod,
are getting very confused by the coloring,
that.
and to
it's
be honest,
attack.
This lends itself to Oda's terrible power system, which is very confusing for people like yourselves who don't understand it.
I'm gonna need the listeners to comment on this one, because I need y'all to let me know if I'm tripping.
It's not hockey. Somebody would have mentioned it. It's not hockey. But anyways,
I feel like we've mentioned it already.
We'll put a pin in that. But let's say that, like, I don't believe, or I would be very upset if these conjurations can use hockey. I think that would be ridiculous. But let's just say that they're strong on their own route or on their own, merits. Mm-hmm. The issue that I have with them is we've seen killing him to be obviously bigger than the size of a normal human. We still don't know what his human form looks like. But
If
he's a
he has
tall guy. He's a big guy. How is he able to make conjurations that are bigger than actual giants, like considerably bigger than actual giants? Doesn't make any sense. And you can make the argument, oh, he's pulling the fears from the kids who are giants, and maybe they, they're in their head. The scary thing is this big thing. Maybe. I still think that's ridiculous. And the fact that, and I can't stress this enough. For plot purposes, Oda has nerfed Elbaf. I mean, let's just call it what it is. He's nerfed them specifically for this moment so that the Straw Hats can save the day, because it doesn't make any sense that literally, Dory, Bragi, when they talked about Elbaf way back in Little Garden, they talked about being warriors. It's a warrior culture. Why would it change in less than 2 years? Because that's how long the time skip was. It was 2 years. That's the time between, plus a couple months, Luffy and Usopp meeting Dory and Bragi, and them getting to effectively Elbaf. Why?
I just think maybe they were
that doesn't
talking
make
about it
sense.
like they were their glory days, Speaking
Maybe
to the glory days of Elbaf.
But I gotta go back and
that
look.
the Straw Hats would actually make it there. They're like, oh no, yeah, Elbaf is great. It's the land of warriors and shit.
Excuse me. But that's the thing, though. It's like they're still pirates. Like Dory and Bragi were traveling giant pirates. I guess they were the old giant pirates or whatever it is. But Haruden and his crew are the new giant pirates. So again, it's just one of those things where it's like, why is it now not a warrior culture? It doesn't really make any sense. I'm sure we'll learn, but if Harold, I guess, betrayed his own people in some way, I'm really kind of curious what this backstory is and how he was able to get them to effectively drop their arms within a generation. And then more specifically, why
they took over the culture of Ohara, They took all those books and they started reading and teaching the kids, and it transitioned from more of a
that also doesn't make sense. It's like,
fascinating
do they know that Saul has been keeping all the books from Vegapunk? They have a relationship with Vegapunk. But let me get the point out. It's like you effectively have a kingdom that is separate from the world government that seems to have had, through their King Harold, a relationship with the God's Knights, particularly Shamrock, but they don't know that Vegapunk is close with them and gives them books. And I guess that Vegapunk is like an ally to the island. Then you get into the whole Shanks thing, like the Protector. It's a little muddy, but maybe it's Cloak and Dagger. I don't know. I guess we'll get to that, but I don't know. There's some plot threads that I'm.
When you said they wouldn't know, who are you talking? You're talking about the citizens of Elbaf? Know about the books?
I guess I'm talking about the world government. The world government who literally their entire kind of aspect of control is controlling the history and people learning it.
Right.
And understanding who's actually in power. So I'm wondering why, if they have a special relationship with King Harold, how would they not know that there are books that, I assume.
Well, because King Harold is dead. One, and two, likely the O'Hara incident happened either as the whole King Harold being assassinated thing occurred, or shortly
after. Okay, now we're getting into headcanon, though, because there's no way. There's no way that you could know that.
I think that the timeline is a really good point. Robin's how old? It happened when she was a kid.
She's supposed to be how old? 30 something.
How old is Loki?
I don't know. Who knows?
He's 80 years old.
He's got to be older than that.
Yeah, if not,
probably 100 plus.
Yeah, so that whole entire incident with Harold happened after he had been taken down by Shanks. He had escaped. He was running around the world. Shanks had to take him down. That was way before Robin.
Okay, fair. Yeah, so if that's the case, then Harold would have been dead way before O'Hara. And the whole incident, that would mean that the world government doesn't have a direct connection with Elbaf, considering that they had a relationship with Harold, right? And so now they're at a state and time where, they can shelter all of the books from O'Hara. And to that point that was previously stated, I think, Bash, you mentioned it could be the knowledge from O'Hara kind of shifted the culture in Elbaf which is what all of a sudden made the warrior culture shift, right? And I think it's a very interesting parallel to how societies operate in our life, right? Where it's like the more technologically advanced, the more educated societies and cities tend to have a softening of the culture. You know, the youth tend to lean more liberal. They tend to consider peace more frequently. And they also have a lot of amenities that enable their ease and comfort, right? And so I think that perhaps they took all of that knowledge. We do see the library. We do see the owl that is, you know, transforming the books into different sizes and making them more accessible to the giants there. And so I think that it does bring up an interesting point. Perhaps the knowledge there shifted the culture in one way or another that would have invariably led to the children now being a bit more pacified than previous generations.
Why not? They even say all those other little kids, they don't like to fight, and the only one that does is is what's his name's son.
Gibbon?
Roger's left hand. Scopper.
Yeah.
Scopper's son. He's the only one that's mischievous and likes to fight and like practice that stuff. All the other kids are not about that life.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I get all that. I kind of get back to the practical aspect, which is like Oda needed to nerf effectively the Elbathians so that they are not a threat to.
He did that. Yeah, he did that.
Yeah, I mean, which is just, it's just kind of whatever. I mean, it's fine, I guess, but I think it's, I don't know, kind of a disservice to the lore, specifically, again, when you get into like Dory and Bragi, like not even mentioning it. And I don't know, we don't even get a mention from, like to some degree, like if, and I'm going to move on from this, but like if Haruhin is like 80 years old, like why is he one of the people who still wants to like kind of renew the legacy of the giants, right? I don't know. But anyways, I guess we'll probably get into the backstory. I do want to focus just one last quick thing on just devil fruits. I got to be honest, like these devil fruits are getting stupid. They're getting dumb. Like, I mean, I'm sure that killing hymns or quilling hymns, devil fruit has like a lot of cool, crazy abilities or whatever. I mean, I don't really care. I'm sick of like mythological Zoans. I mean, technically, the Gomu.
It's almost guaranteed he's mythical.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's like just, yes, unless they create like a new category of Zoan, but it's like, I mean, even Luffy is a mythical Zoan devil fruit user. So it's like,
right.
I'm kind of, it just seems like such a grab bag of like, how do we make them transform, but also like basically just for character design purposes, but also give them like crazy kooky powers. It's like, oh, well, just have them have a mythical Zoan that has special abilities. And to be honest, and I am going to like go in right now.
Go on.
Oda's kind of lazy about this stuff. I mean, he just is.
Think so?
I mean, I'll give you a perfect example. Yamato. Do you remember her fruit? Do you remember what it does?
She was like the Anari or some joint, right? Like she's like the spirit fox.
It's like a wolf demon
protector
that
wolf.
Like has like ice breath or something. Like what?
It's pretty cool.
That was her fruit.
I mean, it's just just silly. It's just like we know nothing about it. We don't know what. I mean, the first introduction of a mythical devil fruit was Marco, and it was special because one, it allowed him to fly. It had different, ways that it worked in relation to. He was kind of like a Logia and kind of wasn't, and he didn't fully transform into a phoenix. He like when he was in his hybrid mode, it was like his arms or his legs or whatever, but like his body was fine. But he was able to heal himself. That was the special ability of the devil fruit, among his ability to like, I guess, spread his fire and I think heal others. But I mean, like,
he did heal. He did heal in the one of fight.
Like that's a pretty cool fruit. Like a phoenix fruit is pretty cool, but
it's OP.
I mean, since then, Kaido obviously was fine. It's like, okay, you're a dragon. I wish we could have gotten the backstory that he was actually like, he awakened the carp fruit. Like, I think that would have been sick. Because
he was just a little fish the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, like, 'cause that to me is much more interesting. That like you could take a Zoan, like a mythological Zoan, that's just like crap, and for whatever reason, when you awaken it, that's when you really unlock the benefits of it, right?
Yeah,
it's the reason why.
Crazy.
like Lucci and Kaku like awakening their Zoans, and it's just like, okay, so they look the same, and you both have black flames around you, and we don't really know what that actually means. If I'm assuming you're stronger, I'm assuming you're faster, but there are no special abilities. It's just like that's kind of whack, right? Like you basically just tried to make them mythical, but
I
they're
think
not.
we're going to find out what that veil means.
Yeah,
maybe
That veil
maybe
means something,
but
'cause they're different colors.
I think
maybe.
they just
Yeah. I don't know if it means
Oda had to power scale them in order to make it make sense, and it's fine. But I do think that like, and it's important to kind of like harp on this, but because we're about to just get like a Devil Fruit dump. I mean, I think Ginkgo is interesting. It's the first paramecia we've probably seen in a little while.
Finally.
We get a mythological, another
heavy
mythological
inspiration
zone
from
with Quillingham.
Demon Slayer, by the way.
Sure, yeah. And whatever the other, I think
Gomu.
it's Summers. Is it Summers?
Yeah, Saint
the other
Summers.
guy. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, hopefully we get something interesting from him. I swear, if it's some kind of Zoan, I'm sure it'll be Logia. But if it's but even if it's like a physical Logia, I'm gonna be pissed because I really wasn't happy about Green Bull. Like, yeah, I'm the nature fruit. Like, I'm a Logia.
What?
Like,
You didn't like that?
I was waiting for
He's-
that fruit. I
He's
think
pretty
same.
OP.
I thought it was gonna be cooler. Like, okay, maybe he turns into like leaves or grass if you try to like strike
He
him or
might
something
be
like
able to
that.
I
do
think
that.
I think they did
definitely
him
can.
right. He looked pretty crazy, especially in the anime.
Turning into a
But he
tree?
immediately gets like punked by Shanks. It's like, dude, I don't know.
I mean, but that's Shanks,
Shanks
and
is that
that's
dude though.
yeah, exactly.
Sure, but I don't.
So
know.
it's
I
like the
didn't
power
find him
scaling.
threatening because it's like even when you're introduced as like taking on like king
Well,
and
it
queen.
wasn't worth it. He was already breaking the rules, going against the emperors. He didn't get the right to do that, and now another emperor was showing up. One that would definitely.
But
cause
even
him
when he
problems.
went to go clean up, like, oh, I'm just basically gonna like kill, steal, like Luffy and just take the beast pirates while they're like beaten up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's just like that's your showing. Like you just come and just,
Yeah.
snatch up defeated enemies, and I don't know where they went. I'm hoping
You're
they're
the
not
third
in
party.
down. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
he had to be the scumbag of the admirals. That's his version of justice.
well, it's funny though because when he was
Exactly.
first introduced, he was like a laughy, jokey, like jocular guy. Like supposedly he went on like a hunger strike or something like that, or he wasn't eating because I forget the reason. But like they have a call between him and Fujitora at that time, like they get along. Like they're like, oh, you're crazy, Fujitora. You're crazy for that one. Like one of those kind of relationships. And then they reintroduce him for Wano, and then he's like has a completely different character design and has a completely different personality where he's this like sycophant for
that
the
was
world
the first time I saw what he looked like.
Yeah.
When?
In Wano.
Yeah. I think that's wasn't
we
that
see a silhouette.
I don't know.
We see a silhouette in a
silhouette
flashback.
piece is
silhouette
piece cannot be trusted. Also, it's part of his devil fruit. He doesn't need to eat. That's the whole thing.
Yeah, or like he can survive off of like very little or whatever. I don't know. I think it's whatever.
Yeah,
it's
he's
fine.
a fucking tree.
Yeah, it's
right.
I think it's lame for him to turn into a tree. I think that's basically a paramecia, but whatever.
No,
whatever,
way.
guys.
It's like
whatever.
He's like nature embodied, right? But going back to the point of like the whole mythical thing. So a couple of things, right? Like the mythical thing, I don't think the cloud cloak, right, is indicative of like it's weird because I think technically Yamato had the cloud cloak as well. And so how do we interpret that, right? Do we just automatically assume that she was awakened? And, to a certain point, if I'm not mistaken, there was a moment where like it almost seemed like Kaido had him, but then he kind of didn't. But then to the point of Kaku and Lucci, I do think that they were awakened, but they're not mythical, right? Their forms did change, by the way, Killer Cam, just ever so slightly. It was kind of like the difference between Luffy in
Their
Gear 4
versus
versus Gear 4, Snake Man, right? Like it was a subtle difference, but there was an aesthetic design change for them.
Hold on, wait. Sorry. Can we talk about Snake Man and Tank Man and how quickly they were abandoned for a second?
Yeah, but I loved them. They had their moment, man.
Yeah,
they were pretty awesome.
Oh my gosh. I mean,
I mean, it's like water.
I
Luffy,
know
like
that
the water
Oda was
balloon.
struggling, like,
Blasphemy, man.
how am I going to make Gear 4 interesting? Because, like, you got the classics, you got your hits with Gear 2nd and Gear 3rd. And then he got to Gear 4 and he was like, geez, I got to, let's just mix them together, I guess. I don't know. And somehow
I thought
Makes
he did great.
somehow Luffy can fly. And, oh, wait, let's just have him, like, somehow get skinny, like, and still be in Gear 4th where he's in Snake
Heck
Man.
yeah.
And he fights in Snake Man, and it doesn't really do anything because it's not like
What? Are you kidding me?
supremely
Nah,
overpowered.
it was.
He never used it
did.
again. Like
It doesn't matter though. He used it in the moment that he needed to use it.
He couldn't give a Gear 5th power up because he was like, okay, no, I got to hold this one off. I'll do the Gear 5th for Wano. He's like, I got to give him something. Okay, I already seen him do like Tank Man. Okay, let's make him skinnier. Let's have him like
just because
focus
it
his
was
hockey
temporary
in like, just his arms or whatever, and like have him get long. To be honest, I would be real. He was kind of biting off of Dragon Ball Z with that. Can we just be real? Can we all be real here, guys? All
with
of
the hair
forms,
and stuff?
all of the forms, even to some degree, Gear 5th. He's kind of biting. He's biting Saiyans.
Anime bites off of Dragon Ball Z a little bit.
Like,
no, but One Piece is unique in the sense of Oda is like a creative genius, and he comes up with a whole bunch of character designs. But this is
he's also heavily
with the hair, like
culture.
Super Saiyan.
Like his hair goes up, he's got white hair. I mean, we've seen. I mean, Goku White Mode or whatever. I don't know what the.
Well, you could say the same thing for Gear 5.
Yeah, for sure.
I am saying that for Gear 5.
That's what he's talking about. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But I think it's like Ultra Instinct or whatever, where Goku has white hair. That's literally it's the same form.
Yeah.
But so here's the point I wanted to make there, right?
Sorry,
like there was absolute creativity in those Gear 4 forms, right? And bringing up the whole Dragon Ball Z thing, right? What Super Saiyan 3 showed up like once, twice, right? And it was never used again to a degree, right? But it was still cool. It was still prominent for the moment, right? Cool? When it appeared.
Yeah, I think that was cool. I thought it was kind of crazy looking to me.
Yeah. Super Saiyan 3 was definitely cool.
The crazy brow.
There was a whole era of Dragon Ball Z artwork of people drawing all kinds of Super Saiyan 3, like Goku, Vegeta, Gohan, Trunks, all of the stuff. Like the long hair thing was a moment, even though in the anime or in the manga itself, it was very brief, right? And so I think, as far as limelight is concerned, Snake Man and Tank Man didn't get that much, praise or hurrah from the audience. But I genuinely think that it was a very cool application of creativity from Oda in regards to working with Gear 4 and doing what was necessary to advance the story without yet revealing Gear 5, right? But subtly introducing elements that would inevitably lead to what Gear 5 ultimately revealed, right? Which is Luffy's insane Toon Force, right? And it started to explain all of these unique things that Luffy was able to do over time. I think the application of going from, your body is made out of rubber, to, I can pump the blood in my vessels even faster to move very fast, to, I can blow up my bones, to then, I can blow up and modulate my muscles, right? Like those were very unique applications of flexibly working with the body as rubber, right? And I think Oda did a great job of exploring what you could possibly do with such a limitation without yet revealing the Toon Force up until the Gear 5 reveal.
We got to stop calling this Toon Force, by the way. I don't know what
that is effectively what it is.
I know that's what it is.
Effectively what it is.
But it's like such a bad, dumb name.
Toon Force. Yeah, it makes me think of like
so cringe. It's like,
what's
it? Enter the chalk zone, bro. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, like.
Can I make a play on this as well?
Go ahead.
To go to DBZ, something that I used to really dislike going into later chapters of DBZ, all the way up to Dragon Ball Super and like Daima, where we're at now, is the fact that like they did have all of those stages, and then every single time they would fight some badass guy, that guy would be super badass, and he would be like, they would start off just without even a power up, and they would go through all their power ups, get a little bit stronger, instead of going right to the very end where they're super strong and then being like, okay, like I'm just whooping you right off the get just to show like the viewer like, oh, that's sick. He's super powerful. That guy was so powerful and he like stopped him. But like now
Right.
Luffy is going to be able to show each, and they have shown this before, each little bit from he'll just out of nowhere he can do a snake. Out of nowhere he can go gear 3 and just like punch somebody. He can like blow up one body part at a time and using gear 4. He's going to be using all those different stages, and that's something that DBZ was never able to do. That's something I'm just going to put out there.
That is very true. And he went straight gear 5 when he was fighting Lucci. He said, oh, okay, no holds bar. Right.
Exactly.
That was incredible.
Yeah. Sure. I guess one thing that I'll say, though, and this is actually just gonna torpedo all your points. I'm sorry I have to do it, though. Gear 4th. How is it activated? It is activated by doing the exact same motion as gear 3rd. The exact same
but
one.
the motion and the application is different.
And then blows air into his body. Like,
I already
the same thing.
I assessed this just a moment ago, right?
The
It's
point
different
that
blowing
I understand it's your
air
muscles,
into your
whatever.
bones
The
versus
point that
your
I'm trying to
muscles.
make is it looks exactly the same, and therefore it's lazy. It's lazy. I'm sorry, it's lazy. It's
no.
same.
That's like saying,
Mugiwara, you missed
Goku
it.
powering up.
We gotta
Goku powering up.
Sorry.
Folks, if you're listening at home, Mugiwara stepped out. He's back in here now. We're gonna tell him what we were talking about because we need to get his take. What does Gear 4th look like to activate? What is the mechanics? What are the motions that Luffy has to do to activate it?
I think he just anymore. I think he just blows up.
He bites his thumb and blows air into his body, and he moves it from his arm into his chest and all that other kind of stuff. It is the exact same motion as Gear 3rd. And this is after a month-long time skip and when I say time skip, I mean the actual physical real-world time that Oda took between the time skip and real life, right? Because he went on hiatus with the manga, boom, Luffy puts the hat on the rock or whatever, learns hockey, and then we come back 2 years later after a month of breaks in the real world. I think it might have been a month or two, I forget.
Right. And it took us until Fisherman Island?
The point that I'm trying to make is it's the exact same mechanics. And I do feel like that's kind of lazy. I mean, it's fine. I mean, it's entertaining. Like, we had Gear 4th. It got us through to Wano, which eventually gave us Gear 5th. But I do feel like if you go back and look at the community's reaction at that time, there was a little bit of like underwhelm, like an underwhelmed feeling. They were like, yeah, it does cool things, but it doesn't look that interesting or unique. And the activation is a little similar. It feels like something that he could have done in Gear 3rd, which, to be honest, based on the mechanics of the ability, he does.
No. It's completely different.
I think that's what it evolved from.
Yeah. I mean, the inclusion of, let's say, if he didn't have hockey, it'd basically be like an application of Gear 3rd. He's putting like air into his body. I mean, let's just be real here.
It's different. Okay. So
and the funny thing is like there were so many different theories like on YouTube. It was like, oh, Luffy's gonna like galvanize his body with like rubber. Like that's gonna be like the new 4 for Gear 4. And then they were just like, oh, he just puts air in a different part of his body. Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it's very different. It's very different, right? I think that Oda reintroducing Gear 4 the same way that he introduced Gear 5 with the biting of the thumb, I think that was an intentional subversion in the moment, right? To make us think, oh, he's just going to utilize that same Gear 3 power that we know and love. But surprise, surprise, there's a bit more to it this time around, right? Hence the Gear 4, right? So we get that initial moment where it's just like, he's probably just going to use Gear 3. And then lo and behold, we get something even more grand than that. And then we have the application of hockey. We get the tribal-esque designs on his chest and the hair and the eyes, the rings around the eyes, that kind of thing. There was a visible difference between Gear 4 and Gear 3 after that initial transitory stage, right? And that's like saying Goku charging up is lazy, right? Like he's going to do that for every single form that he has, basically, right? Sans Ultra Instinct, right? Which was a little bit different. And even now he charges up to go that Super Saiyan Blue mode. It's just a par for course, right? That sometimes the power up or the transitory state between power levels might look similar to how it does
You know
in
what it
previous
is?
forms.
This is what it is.
Yeah.
Gear Fourth is the PS4 of Luffy power-ups. It is the most forgettable. It is not there very long. You had
Whoa.
the
Mhm.
PS2
The PS4 sold
classic.
like the
you had-
most out of
Oh,
all.
don't forget
You had
when he goes 3 and he
PS2
becomes super small.
Yeah, PS2
that
classic.
was
Yeah, PS3 classic.
PS4 was
PS4
fire,
was
bro.
like,
Right?
that's
Get out of
fine.
here.
PS5
Get
comes
out of
in,
here.
blows the doors open. It's like, oh my god, this system's amazing. It looks great. It looks
PS4
fantastic.
is what allowed Sony to dominate the gaming industry for as long as it has.
Listen, PS4. It's a snooze fest, bro. I'm sorry. There's
Oh
not even
my
that many games
goodness.
for it, bro. There's not even that many
What?
exclusive
Are you
games for it.
kidding me?
If you look at the games that came
He
out,
said-
I don't want to get into like a big debate about this, but like the biggest titles that came out for the PS, like, or Sony just in general, it was like Last of Us, it was like Modern Warfare, all those other kind of things. Those were like popularized on the PS3. And
God
then they
of
got
War,
ported
Kingdom
over to the
Hearts,
PS4.
Final Fantasy.
Sure, but like those weren't specific PS4 titles. Those were PS3 that like got ported over to PS4, and then they had their actual sequels on the PS5. But anyways, the point I'm trying to make is Year Fourth kind of sucks. We can all admit it.
Hilarious.
Not that interesting, kind of lazy, but it got us to Gear Fifth because I think Oda was just like, all right, man, I'm running out of ideas with Gear Fourth. I just gotta, blow my
Gear Fifth is
blow my
Gear
load a
Fifth was
little bit.
overhyped, bro.
What would you say?
I mean,
Matt?
I do.
Gear
think
Fifth was overhyped too.
I think Gear Fifth was like at the very least creatively entertaining because like the form itself is very unique. I still don't like the application of the powers. I went back and
I love Gear 5.
We have to get on the
Same.
topic in a
Love
second,
it.
so I do want to change gears
Love
in a second.
it.
Like for Gear Fifth,
Absolutely.
I went back and I reread him fighting Kaido. And it is interesting because, we talk a lot about Luffy in his base form using advanced Conqueror's Haki was basically kind of like holding his own. He is, but if you go back and read the chapters, like Kaido basically just off screens Luffy. It's really stupid. Like Luffy is holding his own, and then all of a sudden, like, boom, we go back to like the inside of Wano or inside Onigashima, whatever, and then boop back out, and then Luffy's falling off of like the like floating skull, and like Kaido's like,
I didn't read that fight. I watched it.
Yeah, it's kind of dumb. I mean, it's just like, wait, how did Kaido? I mean, maybe he got quote unquote serious, but like, how did he just low diff Luffy and he was holding his own just 2 seconds ago? But whatever. When Luffy comes back and he does Gear Fifth, they explicitly state that Luffy is, like Kaido says this, is using advanced Conqueror's Haki and advanced Armaments Haki at the same time. So his Gear Fifth is using effect, like, so we probably won't see base Luffy. I mean, unless he's like having a skirmish like he did with like Kizaru or something. So we will, basically the point being is like, we will at this point, like the strongest version of Luffy that we will see will always be Gear Fifth, unless there's like some other kind of
Thank God
thing or something. I don't know.
Thank God. I love Gear Fifth. But let us actually talk about this chapter a bit more, right? Because I really want to talk about some of the points that we were discussing earlier where you were bringing up Saint Summers and what his power may or may not be. I genuinely think we are already seeing Saint Summers' power at play here, right? I think all three of those God's Knights, we are seeing some representation of their powers on display with the way that this scenario is unfolding, right? And in that, I think it's very much possible that Saint Summers is the one potentially bringing these nightmarish creatures to life, animating them in some way, or making them gigantic, right? Some application of Saint Summers' power is absolutely on display right now. That's what I believe, right? Because we see Ginkgo at work. We see killing him at work, right? And we see Saint Summers there saying like, oh, good work, right? Like effectively showing that they are all contributing something to
and
this
asking
equation.
what Gunko fears.
Yeah. Which was
Yeah.
He
very
goes,
interesting.
"What do you fear, Gunko?" You know,
Right.
Yeah.
And so very good point, Mugiwara, because in the panel that we saw previously, we see the arrow guiding the children. So we know that's where Ginkgo is showing up in this equation. Then we see killing him with the little sleeping face. So that's indicative of him representing the sleep aspect of what's unfolding. And then seeing Saint Summers asking about what Gunko fears, that gives me some inclination that he is the one contributing the animation of those fears.
Okay, I mean, I guess it remains to be seen. BTC Bash catch him, and you got to run.
Yeah. I'm catching out. I'll catch y'all.
Okay, if you're listening at home, just pretend that his little square disappeared. I don't know how to edit that out yet. Well, I do, but I just don't feel like it. So just go along with it.
I'm gonna have to.
Okay, let's talk about the main topic at hand. We've been talking for 45 minutes now. We haven't even gotten to our main topic. Hopefully, this isn't too long. Loki's dream.
Chop it up into some great content.
Loki's dream is clearly to be handled by Luffy. I mean, I think that's just clear. And why am I saying that? Because of the way that Oda is clearly setting him up. Loki seems to be asking for it. Mm-hmm. And it's not just from the standpoint of Loki believes that he is Nika, although we know as the readers that Luffy is Nika, specifically because, he's like the heir apparent to Joy Boy and also ate the Nika fruit, which we have been told it has a mind of its own. So it chose Luffy specifically to effectively reincarnate sort of within him, which, kind of begs another question, which is was there ever really a Nika, or has it always been a wielder of the Nika fruit? But we'll put a pin in that maybe for another conversation. But so Loki believes that he is Nika, and he believes that his destiny is to destroy the world, right? And to some degree, we have been told that Luffy's destiny is that as well. We learned that from, I think it's Madame Shirley in Fishman Island, when she says that she's looked at his future in her crystal ball and that he is destined to destroy Fishman Island. And, obviously there are theories that Luffy is going to destroy the Red Line, and to create all blue and to remove the, physical barriers of the land, the world that allows people to, or that forces people to remain isolated on certain islands. So if that is actually a positive act, even if it's a negative action, but ultimately a positive act, and Loki seems to believe that he is the person who should do that, right? To do a bad thing for a good cause. But we know that that's Luffy who's really the actual person who's destined to do that. It seems to me, knowingly or unknowingly, at this point unknowingly, that Loki is kind of trying to animate Luffy. And what I mean when I say that is he stands up and immediately makes a threat. And the only time that him and Luffy have talked before is he offered Luffy a deal. I will destroy any pirate crew that you ask if you free me. And maybe that's a lie, whatever. He's surprised at Luffy's strength when Luffy goes at him in Gear 4th. And he gets up. Obviously, he's still in prison, but he immediately says, if you want to save Elbaf, which is an odd thing to say, right? Just because Loki doesn't really know at this point what the Gods and Knights were after other than to recruit him. So they don't know, or he doesn't know, presumably, that they are there to also take children. So he doesn't know that Elbaf is in danger. But he stands up and says, if you want to save Elbaf, you need to free me. And if you don't, I'm going to just cause havoc, right? And it's almost kind of like he's asking Luffy to do something about it, right? But we know that obviously Luffy is Nika. And you also have this interesting juxtaposition within the classroom with the kids. I actually wrote this down where they're talking about Nika specifically. Basically, the fear is, I'm afraid of Nika, right? And then one of the other kids goes, no, Loki is scarier, right? And it's an interesting juxtaposition because it puts them in conflict. You get what I'm saying? So now it creates the question, who is the bigger threat? Is it Nika or is it Loki? And I think that is a subtle way that Oda is linking the idea that they are going to clash and the real Nika will stand up. And because we know that is Luffy, basically kind of coming back full circle, Loki is unintentionally asking for a ass whooping.
Right.
He is unintentionally goading the person who will reveal himself to be who Loki wants and believes he is.
Fair. So I believe, and this was my crazy theory, right? Yes, all of these things can come to pass. Yes, I do think that Luffy and Loki will have a clash to some degree. Yes, I believe that Loki is goading Luffy in this scenario, right? Basically antagonizing him to the point of conflict, or to, at the very least, to catalyze this moment, right? Like, hey, if you want to save Elbaf, you get the shackle off me. You know what I'm saying? Or I'm going to do something that you'll regret. But he does it anyway, right? My crazy hot take was that I do think that there is a level of benevolence in his actions. And I believe, and I went back, it was chapter 1137. I went back just to double check. I do believe Shamrock and Gunko were speaking while they were in front of Loki, by the way, when they were like, oh, it's time to change tactics. And like basically the children of Elbaf will be under their command, right? He might have appeared to be knocked out, right? But I do think that they were at least in earshot of Loki. That being said, whether or not he knew that specific context or not, he very much knew that there were antagonists on Elbaf soil, right? And he was definitely just harmed by them. Now, the way that he struck the tree, right? To me, I took it as an opportunity to be the quickest signal to the upper realm, to the sun realm, that he could get without physically traveling there himself, in order to alert any of the existing warriors that remained on Elbaf that, hey, there is a dire situation worth me doing this, right? Like, I would rather set Elbaf on fire than see them leave here with all of these kids, right? That's how I took it, right? And the reason why I say that is within the context of him giving Luffy that warning, like, hey, if you want to save Elbaf, take this shackle off of me, because that's what I am trying to do right now. Right? That's how I really took that context. And so for me, I think that Loki, yes, he is perhaps misguided, or perhaps his intentions are always blanketed with an air of malevolence, or, uh, let's say the intent was good, but the repercussions of his actions typically end up being volatile. I think that that is characteristic of a trope that Loki, right, would have. And I just think that, he is misguided, or we are not seeing the true intentions through his actions. And I think Oda wants us to feel the pressure of his antagonism at this moment, but will later reveal that, okay, yeah, no, there is some benevolence behind his actions.
Mugiwara.
I like that take. I remember you saying something about that previously, and
Yeah.
it does feel like he knows that things need to be saved. I never thought of it like that, but once you said that, it hasn't left my mind. So that's something that's there's something there, like subconsciously, that I'm like, all right, I see that. That makes sense. For me, there's so many players right now that are around on Elbaf, and I'm really interested to see where it goes. Like, they are messing with the kids right now. I know Scopper Gabon's running around. And then once Loki is freed, like, if he is freed, I think he's going to be freed, of course. Like, what the interaction is going to be. And, like, is he just jumping up to the top? Like, what's the next step for him? He's probably not going to go and save all the kids, because that's what, like, Luffy, I feel like, and the Straw Hats are all going to be doing. Like, where is he going to be? He might run in the opposite direction, doing some other thing, chasing after these God's Knights. So I don't know. I think he's definitely just trying still to goad Luffy into like releasing him or to at least clashing with him. And I do think that Anika, like you said, Killa is going to just like probably come out on top. But I really do like, I could totally see them like, he might have like some kind of fruit that's similar to like a Nika fruit, like some kind of like, he might be this like other bipolar version of him, whatever is going to come of this. Yeah, like I really don't think it's just going to be like, oh, I have Ragnir and that's what's going down. Like he still has his things over his eyes. Like who knows when he removes that? Like maybe next chapter he's going to remove the bandages on his eyes and we're like, okay, something else crazy happens. So I don't know. I there's still too much for me to say. Like I don't think Luffy's like just clashing and coming out on top, and then Loki's gonna get behind the Straw Hats.
I'm almost certain Loki will have a Logia devil fruit. I don't think it's going to be Paramecia, and if it's mythical Zoan, I am going to stop reading. I'm going to quit. I'm going to quit the series. If it is a mythical Zoan, I am done with One Piece. I'm just wrapping. I'm just calling it a day.
Hilarious.
You have nothing else.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like it's a very biased grab bag of devil fruits at this point. Oh, another mythical Zoan. That's crazy. That's
mythical wild. Logia extra lightning.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I do hope that we get to see Enel again. He was just such a great character, and it's just crazy that like it feels like he was in such a throwaway arc. And obviously, I love Skypiea. I think it's an incredibly great storytelling arc. Obviously, it doesn't have very many ramifications.
Way to preface that
series, but no, it doesn't. It really doesn't. It doesn't have very many very many. You want to make the argument?
Yes.
There's so much. This is the beginning of the lore.
There's so much.
Skypiea.
You mean
with
the shadow on the wall, like that?
Yeah, on the
clouds.
That was basically an Easter egg that had
them talking about the sun god and the earth god, the rain god, all of those different gods. That all started in Skypiea.
Yeah, but it's such a throwaway remark, and to be honest, again, we haven't seen any of those characters since. We only see Wiper in like a cover story.
That doesn't mean that they're not significant. Like I think that there's a reason why we may not be seeing
Chan. All right, it doesn't mean he wasn't there.
Listen, I love Skypiea, but I do feel like, I'll be honest, when I was watching One Piece, like before I was reading it, I got to Skypiea and I was like, this is a great arc, but where is it going? And I remember that's when the series really turns, because it's kind of like arc after arc after arc. And every now and then you get like, it's kind of like the villain of the week where, you go, you spend a lot of time here, you learn who the big bad is. And it's like, okay, we're doing this again. Okay, it's like another Logia user. We just got out of like Alabasta. Like, okay, we are, I guess we are doing it again. And there wasn't really a purpose to go there other than to see if it was there, right? Like it didn't have anything to do with being the Pirate King. It didn't have anything to do with, finding effectively the One Piece. It was just a pleasure trip out of curiosity. And the villains that we meet are completely disconnected from the world. But after that arc, I feel like Oda was like, okay, all right, maybe his editors got to him and it was like, okay, rein it in, get back to the real story, get back to the world building, like tell us more about the world at the surface level. And then we got Enies Lobby. So I don't know. I mean, I still love it as an arc, but I do think that like, I think if you're being honest as a One Piece fan, either you or somebody that you know had a hard time like post that arc still being excited until you realize that like Water 7 was like the lead up to Enies Lobby. Like if you were just watching it and you're like, I have no idea what's coming next, I feel like that's when you start to slow down a little bit, because you're like, okay, is it just going to be another arc where it's just like they go and liberate some island from some big evil villain? But anyways, that's neither here nor there. I want to believe you in the sense of Loki's doing this thing because, obviously Oda's been leaving all these kind of, I don't know, little kind of threads that Loki might be misunderstood, that maybe it's a little, I don't know, that there's a narrative about him that isn't fully true, obviously, because Luffy trusts him. That's like the biggest element of it. But that being said, I don't know. I mean, I think it was a really bold choice that Oda did to have Loki directly attack the oldest tree in all of One Piece that is extremely susceptible to flames. And
For sure.
literally, like, a fire won't be able to go out. You just have to cut the limb, and a village disappears when you do that. So I do think it's one of those things where, like, yeah, maybe it's possible, but the method of doing it is so destructive that I think it really does lend itself to not necessarily that Loki is evil, but that he is extremely careless and he has a larger goal, but doesn't care about the means or the methods to achieve it.
For sure.
So yeah, I don't know if it was
For
like a bad signal as much as it was like,
fair point.
I need to get out of these chains, and if you don't get me out of these chains, then watch this, right? I think the curious thing is, are they going to let him out?
Yeah.
And I don't know if Luffy will. I mean, I'm sure they will if it's like, okay, I'm going to square up against you and then we get the fight. I don't think Luffy's going to beat him up in the chains. But if they let him out, it will be because Luffy will fight him 100%.
For sure.
So I don't know. I think it's a curious development. I think it was an interesting choice for Oda to actually show us that Loki is the honey badger and doesn't give an F of what happens.
Right.
Well,
I can definitely agree with that, like the carelessness to his nature, right? But I think that that's going to be, honestly, this is a great mirror lesson for Luffy, right? Because it might very well just be that opportunity for us to witness or see Luffy take deeper consideration into the repercussion of action, right? Because, I mean, we up until this point, we have seen, like, Luffy understands morals. He's not completely a doofus. Like, he gets into scenarios where it's just like, wow, like, he really stepped up to the plate and owned this moment, right? But most of those scenarios are purely morality based, like him coming to save someone, standing up for someone on behalf of, you know, their rights, etc. But we don't actually see Luffy reflecting on the repercussion of action itself, right? And I think with Loki being as misguided as he is, right? And in this, you know, I would say he's in a what is that state called? The like limbo. He's like in this limbo state between wanting to be good but failing to be, right? And inevitably having these careless actions that could very much lead him into being a very villainous person, right? Like it's the same way that we see villains created in broader story arcs, right? Like we can see villains initially start with some level of meaningful intention, but they just misguided and they keep falling down that path over and over again. And so I think that this is going to be a really great opportunity for Luffy to witness Loki in these destructive states and these careless actions and to step up to that plate and say, hey, like, that's not how you go about doing this. And if you continue, I'm going to beat some sense into you. And you will just have to listen to me, like listen to my guiding voice before you take any action. And I think that if Luffy is able to beat him into that submission, I think we will definitely gain an ally out of Loki.
Yeah, I think it's curious, and you know, obviously we're gonna, maybe not obviously, but we're gonna wrap things up shortly. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's one of those things where it will be interesting to see how Luffy handles this. I think that specifically Oda kind of hiding the ball with, you know, why would Luffy use Gear 4th specifically instead of Gear 5th when he got mad and charged up? I think that Oda's trying to kind of save that moment for Loki to see Nika.
For sure.
Because I think that's going to be a big reveal, obviously, for Loki, and it's going to change his perspective, and I think really kind of, whether positively or negatively, warp everything he thinks about himself as far as being the chosen one. If he finds out that it's actually somebody else, does he rage? Does he, you know, follow him? I think it'll be interesting. So I think when
Peace and blessings, y'all. It's wild and free here.
All right, Mugiwara out.
Peace.
Peace.